Anthony, two-part question. One, is this the end of the Clay Helton era? And two, I think I know the answer, but should this be the end of the Clay Helton era? What more justification is there? I'll give my answer. It's not a pretty one. It's not a positive one. But what do they do? What do they do? What will they do? What should they do? Why should they do what they should obviously do? Go for it.
Yeah, I'll try to tackle
I'll try to tackle.
I mean, yeah, it is the end.
it is the end. It is the end.
I mean, what else is there left to say? Had so many opportunities, so many chances. You laid it out really nicely in your column about the excuses that he's had in previous seasons, and now this season there really is no excuse. I mean, sure, maybe the wide receiving group is not as great. Sure, maybe the air raid is not working as great as we expected. I don't know, but look, this is the end. It has to be. I mean, it's getting embarrassing because not only are our fans been lobbying for this for years, but alumni. I mean, Johnson tweeted it out, said he's not going to fight on for Clay Helton, and I was an early supporter of Clay Helton. So it should be the end. I mean, at the end of the day, look, a major coaching change is probably the least they can do because it's been brewing for a couple seasons, and I think that it kind of hurts your recruits too. There were, a lot of recruits that are taking some official visits. Imagine taking an official visit yesterday at the Coliseum and hearing, the chants from the student section about the head coach. There's no way I would ever want to come back to that school and go for a visit. So I mean, it's time for a brand change. You got to just get rid of all this bad energy, the bad vibes, the bullying. You talked about the fans. They came out, packed the student section. It overflowed against Stanford. I mean, who knows if they're going to show up, with all the respect to Oregon State. Who knows if they're even going to show up for that game? I memean, it's just Clay Helton right now is probably the most disliked figure on campus. It's unfortunately much that because he's a nice man, but at the end of the day, the nice man attitude. Sometimes if it's not getting wins, you just can't stick around. Expectations are too high. He's talked about the championships. Mike Brown has talked about it. We have high expectations. If you have high expectations, you got to let go of him at some point because he's obviously not meeting the expectations. Losing to an unranked Stanford team, you're ranked. I mean, it has to be the end. It has to be the end. And if it's not the end, then I really don't know what's going on anymore with USC football. But it should be the end. It is the end. I know you have a lot of things to say, so I will cut that to that. It has to be the end. And I honestly don't know any reason why it should continue to be this way.
I think I just felt a mini earthquake. It's kind of symbolic, if you ask me. All right, here we go. So, first 15 minutes, the first quarter last night, USC had accomplished all of these things. Kicker ejected for targeting. Wasted a timeout on 3rd and 21 when they were on defense. 87-yard touchdown. Guy was practically untouched. 2 3-and-outs. Delay of game penalty. They were losing 7-0. They were in the red zone actually, so they were kind of threatening. So the 7-0 ended up being 7-3 or 7-7 or something like that. Whatever. Helton talked after the game, and he talked again today about how this is week 2, right? This is week 2. We still have a long way to go. And by the way, you talked about my column. I appreciate the shout out. I wasn't going to do it. You did it. Everybody go read my column. Read Anthony's work over at the Daily Trojan along with Adam Jasper too. Anyway, this is week 2. It's true. It's week 2 of the 2021 season. It's also Clay Helton's sixth full season as USC's head coach. Let me walk you through the first 5 of those 6 full seasons where Clay Helton has been USC's head coach. The first 2 seasons, he had some guy named Sam Darnold. They were really good. They won a Rose Bowl. They went to a Cotton Bowl where they lost to Ohio State. They won a Pac-12 championship. Not 1, but 2. Still decent. 2018, right? Darnold leaves. JT Daniels, the 5-star quarterback recruit. A terrible offense led by T. Martin sinks him. They go 5-7. Martin's fired, but Helton has an excuse. He goes, look, he didn't say this, but this was how it was presented. T. Martin was terrible, and T. Martin, don't get me wrong, was terrible. That team was bad. But Clay Helton had a perfectly valid excuse there. 2019, they come in, they take a step forward. Everybody loves a good step forward. This program's trending in the right direction, blah, 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 blah. They go 8-4. They play Iowa in the Holiday Bowl. against a good Iowa team, right? They get absolutely smoked. It shows the difference between the good team that USC is, because I think that they are a good team, and they were a good team that season too, and the better teams in college football, the teams that are a tier or two or three above them, right? But there was an excuse that season. Mike Bone had just been hired as the AD. You don't come in and just fire the new guy when you've only been there for a couple months, whatever. So he sticks around for one more year. Clancy Pendergast gone. 2020 COVID year, anomaly. Anything can happen. It's totally random. They lost to Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game, but you can take that with a grain of salt because, USC must have been the only school dealing with the pandemic in 2020. By the way, that 5-0 regular season could have been 2-3. This year, there's none of that. COVID is still going on, but the season is full. The fans are back in the stands. His coaching staff has been set. The talent's there. What more do you have? The buyout, we don't know what the buyout is, but it's assumed to be less. 2 more years left on the contract. Like, what more justification is there for keeping him around? Why not give the reins over to Dante Williams or something like that? See what he can do with the team. Look, they have plenty to play for this season. Helton said that all our dreams are still out there for this season. They're not. They're not going to the college football playoff unless they weren't even going for that, which is a problem in and of itself. And I don't think people should appreciate the expectations being that low. Granted, this is also a team that sold Pac-12 South Division champions shirts last year, which is pretty embarrassing for a school that has 25 Rose Bowls and 11 national championships. Anyway, these are the same themes: penalties, lack of discipline, can't execute, which, yes, we talked about falls somewhat on the players too. They come out flat. They lose games that they simply should not lose. They look uninspired. Like, what has changed? What is new? It's the same stuff, Anthony, every single year. And I don't know how much longer of a leash you can provide. There's one common denominator the last few seasons. There's been multiple ADs. There have been multiple offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, a ton of different players. There have been multiple university presidents, and it's the same stuff. I don't get it. I don't get it. Do I think this is the end of the Clay Helton era? Right now, no, because he's not going to get fired this week. But do I think he's going to get fired this season? Should it be the end? It should have been the end yesterday. It should have been the end the day before. It should have been the end the season before. I just don't get it. The previous excuses were not strong as they were, but now there's literally no more excuse. There's no more justification. I don't know what more there is left to prove or not prove, I guess is a better way of putting things. I'm at a loss for words. I don't understand. This fan base is so apathetic at this point. Did you go on Twitter at any point during the second half of that game or after the game or this morning or probably tomorrow or the entire next week? People were like, look, there were 2 different approaches being taken. One was that I'm numb. I don't care anymore. I'm used to this. It's been happening ever since 2018, whatever perspective you might have. And I don't care anymore. I'm used to it. I've been prepared for this. I know how to deal with this. It's unexpectedly expected. It's just we're all used to this, and we're familiar with it. We saw it coming. We also didn't see it coming. It's like apathy. It's just apathy. And then the second approach is I'm glad they lost because now Helton will be fired sooner. But that's what they've been saying for the last 3 years, and he's still around. So I think above all, the one sentiment that encapsulates both of those feelings is just disappointment and confusion and just like what is going on as a program. We're wasting all this talent that we have. It's like it's so directionless and there's so little of a plan. And it's so infuriating that I don't know, Anthony, why this is still happening. It's not week 2. It is week 2, but it's not week 2. It's year 6. It's like the same stuff, literally the same exact stuff.
Yeah, let me add something really quickly. You talked about it's kind of like ruining it for now. It's also ruining it for the future because if recruits are coming and they're seeing this kind of instability, this type of coach drama, they're not knowing who's going to coach them. That's a problem. I mean, I'm not a D1 athlete, but if I was a D1 athlete and someone asked me to come to USC to be a recruit, first thing I would say was coach. I mean, that's the main thing because you don't want to come. Let's say you come on a visit, you like Clay Helton, you feel you can bond with him, and then he's gone after the season, and by the time you come on campus, it's a different person. And let's say you don't like that person, and you transfer out. It's just a part of that system where you can save yourself, until it just, or before it gets too bad, where you kind of just in this position now where we don't know what to expect. And I saw a really good tweet where someone said USC fans see Groundhog Day not as a movie but as a lifestyle, because I swear that loss last night, it seems like we've seen it before. Even for me, I've probably seen that before, and I haven't been around U.S. football for too long, and not as long as you. But I mean, just the fact that that's something that's talked about, and he's still around, it's a little alarming. I mean, it's kind of like, what are we doing here? Like, what's next? What's the direction? I mean, there is no direction other than you gotta just let it go. You gotta start fresh. You just have to move on, because when you're losing fans, you're losing alumni. That's usually the worst thing that could happen. People that are passionate, have been fighting on for years and years, don't want to associate themselves with the school or with the football team because of a man and a coach. Then it's time to get rid of that man and start fresh. And I don't know what's taking so long. I really don't. Obviously, it's not going to happen right now. Like you said, it's still week 2. But look, if this season turns out and let's say they win every single game after this, I really don't know. Like, I know you're not hoping that happens because Clay, but look, I honestly don't know what could happen, but I really don't think that this should be, run back and be like, hey, let's give him another chance, because he's had too many.
It's just so funny to me how I feel like a large part of the reason why we're still in this situation is that the school and the department have always wanted stability, right? Amid the president change, they were like, we need something to anchor the football team. And then the AD changed, they were like, blah, blah, blah. They are their own worst enemy because nobody cares about stability, Anthony. I promise you, not a single person cares about stability. You know what they care about? They care about winning football games, and they care about having a product that lives up at least close to USC's own standards. People don't care if, oh, I don't know who the face of this team is, or I don't know, I can't deal with all this change. I can't deal with a new president and a new head coach at the same time. Nobody cares about any of that. Maybe they do because it lines their wallets or whatever, but dude, it's they can't get out of their own way. And at some point it's obviously a tough decision to make. It's tough to do that to anybody. And I've talked about it. Clay Helton's, I think he's a good person. I think he's a really nice guy. And whatever he's doing in 3 years, I hope he's enjoying it and doing it well. It should not be coaching this football team. That's all I have on Clay. I'm sure we'll have more, but it's just I'm at a loss for words. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you said something really clear though. Like, I mean, it's easy for us to say, Trojan Dash saying we should get fired, but at some point you've got to there has to be something. I mean, you can't just keep living on with this madness, It just doesn't add up. But yeah, I mean, that's really all I have to say. I'm sure we'll have more later on.
Players